When you think of a tandoor, you probably think of delicious naan bread, right? But this is a story about how that simple clay oven became something so much more. It's about warmth, survival, and reinvention. We're going to look at how two women, pushed to their absolute limits, used a tandoor to not just get by, but to completely change their lives. We've all heard that old saying, right? Necessity is the mother of invention. But is it really true? Does being desperate automatically make you a genius? Well, the stories of Mohini and Kavita kind of challenge that idea, and the answer they give us is way more interesting and, honestly, more inspiring than you might think. Okay, so let's meet our two protagonists. First, there's Mohini. She's a widow, working day in and day out at a little roadside diner, what's known as a dhaba, and she's facing hardship from every single direction. And then we have Kavita. She's running her own small dhaba in a pretty remote village, just completely crushed by her family's medical bills. Both women are basically trapped, looking for any way out. To really get what they accomplished, we first have to feel the incredible weight they were carrying. For Mohini and Kavita, life wasn't just a struggle. It was a daily, soul-crushing fight for their very survival and, just a little bit of dignity. So their struggles were kind of running on these parallel tracks. Mohini's fight was so much about the emotional and social side of things. As a widow, she was just treated like a burden, taking verbal abuse from her boss and even from her own family. Kavita, on the other hand, was in the middle of this desperate financial war against sickness and poverty, trying to do whatever it took to keep her family afloat. Just imagine hearing that every single day. This was Mohini's reality. Her boss was constantly threatening her, making her only job feel like it could disappear at any second. She had to just swallow her pride and take this abuse to feed her family, all while she was still grieving. And for Kavita, the bad news just kept coming. She was already struggling to find 2,000 rupees a month for her daughter's inhaler. And then this hits her, the news that her husband needs a 5 lakh rupee operation. For a woman selling food in a tiny village, that amount is it's impossible. Absolutely catastrophic. So both women had well and truly hit rock bottom. And it's right here, in this cold, dark place, that a little spark of an idea starts to glow. This is that moment where pure, raw necessity starts to turn into something amazing: invention. For Mohini, the idea actually came from her son. He saw her shivering in just a thin blanket and wished out loud that they had a small tandoor for warmth, just like the one at her work. So she took that simple wish and made it happen. She found a broken bucket, coated it in mud, and created this simple little heater that turned their freezing hut into a warm home. It was brilliant, and it was born from a child's love. Now, Kavita's moment of ingenuity was a bit different. She didn't build anything new, she just repurposed what she already had. When a sudden snowstorm trapped a group of tourists at her dhaba, she kept her tandoor burning all through the night, not for making food, but as a source of life-saving heat. It was just pure resourcefulness and compassion. But their own creativity was just the first piece of the puzzle. For their lives to really truly change, they needed something else. A totally unexpected push from the very world that had been so tough on them until now. And that push came for Mohini in such a powerful way. Her mother-in-law, who hadn't always been supportive, actually sees her boss being cruel to her. And in that moment, something just snaps. She pulls Mohini out of there, says you're done working for other people, and offers up her own pension money to help Mohini start a business. For Kavita, the turning point was this one life-altering number. The tourist she had kept warm and safe from the storm, who just so happened to be a famous doctor, was so moved by her kindness that he gave her 5 lakh rupees. It was the exact amount she needed for her husband's surgery. A direct reward for her selfless act. So with their own clever ideas now getting recognized and supported, both women finally turned a corner. Their stories stop being about just surviving and start being about real, lasting success. It's incredible. Mohini took her simple little invention, the Tandoor Heater, and built a whole business around it, becoming totally self-reliant. And Kavita, she used that newfound fame and the money to grow her tiny dhaba into a real hotel, earning not just wealth, but the respect of her whole community. The ripple effect is just amazing to see. Mohini's family, the same people who once looked down on her, all rallied around to help her sell those heaters. And Kavita's one small act of kindness basically put her village on the map. turning her little daba into a destination and letting her build a future she never, ever could have dreamed of. And that brings us right back to our big question. What was the real miracle here? Was it the unexpected help, the money from the doctor, the mother-in-law's change of heart? Or was it the incredible, unshakable courage and ingenuity these women showed when they had absolutely nothing left? Maybe the real lesson is that one can't exist without the other.